Welcome to the Togetherness Redefined podcast and videocast. I'm your host, Celeste Orr, and this is where we get together to talk about all sorts of ways to connect with our families. Today on the podcast, I'm interviewing Paola Sur, and we're talking about mental health and motherhood. It's a really important conversation and one where we both share something really personal about ourselves and our battles with anxiety, and how we really want to not just overcome anxiety, but use that as something that really helps us in the family togetherness department. I hope you find a lot of courage and strength in this podcast. It's for moms and parents and grandparents who have ever dealt with mental health issues in their family, or those who have had questions about mental health and how to remove the stigma of that. It's also for anyone who loves to gather strength from writing and journaling and telling your own story. So Paola and I talk about all things mental health, stigmas, removing them, strategies for overcoming anxiety, and also we give some resources for help with journaling and tell your own story too. So I'm so excited to share this interview with you, and I can't wait to hear back from you in the comments and in the email group. You can get all the links to everything we talk about in this podcast at togethernessredefined.com when you click on podcast, and then you select that cover there that talks about this interview with Paola. So let's dig in now, and at the end I'm going to check back in and tell you about something really cool for you. A big hello to Paola Sur. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today, Paola. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here.
Great. So I want to tell our podcast listeners sort of how we ran into each other, and then I'm going to let you introduce yourself because I want to make sure that you tell folks all of the amazing things that you're doing right now. So I met Paola in an online group for writers and for people who are creating a business around their writing, and we started talking about ways to publish our books before those big publishers kind of know who we are. And we've had a really good time just supporting each other and encouraging each other and our books. And Paola has a book that's about to come out. So I want her to tell us about that. And I'd love for you to tell us, who you are and what you do.
Well, thank you so much, and I'm really really happy to be here and to be talking to other people that might be encouraged to do what we do, which is writing, and it's what we love. So yes, I have a book that is it's coming out in a couple of months, and it's called The Anxious Mom Manifesto, and it's a book that talks about my journey with anxiety and how I had these 18 lessons that will help moms to, or that are for moms that are willing to take control of their anxiety. And it's a very, it's just my story. I give examples of things that happened to me and that people might find relatable, and that then I give tips also of how I managed to get this. I call it the anxiety monster. I created this character in the book that is called Anxiety Monster, and how can you control that anxiety monster and make it work in your favor, and not you get lose control of your life because of anxiety. So that's the main reason I wrote it. But this is my first nonfiction book. I used to write fiction, fantasy for young adults, and also I have a kids book. So it's my first experience with this nonfiction self-help book, and I'm a little nervous about it, but we'll see how it goes, I guess. I believe that if you have a story that can encourage others and can encourage an open conversation about mental health and motherhood, I think that's a good thing, because there is a lot of stigmas around the subject. And I believe that my book and other books on the subjects and other authors are helping right now to just close that gap, and I'm just happy to do that.
Yes. Well, I have to say that I am a big believer in two things that you talked about, the two main things that you talked about. One of them is that we have to remove this stigma about mental health.
Yes, definitely.
And I've had friends and family members who have dealt with mental health issues, and every time it comes up, there's a lot of guilt and shame that tend to come with it. And I have always said, because it's what I was taught, that mental health is the same as physical health when it comes to getting help for it. It's just like you wouldn't, go around with this throbbing headache without taking medicine for it, or, seeking some help for that. And you shouldn't and wouldn't right,
Yeah,
go
yeah,
around with this anxiety
definitely.
monster and not get help for that. So I love your website, and your book cover is out there, and I'm going to share all those details a little bit later, and I'm going to have links on our show notes for this episode for people to find you. But something that I haven't shared publicly and haven't talked about just yet, because I'm going through it right now, is that anxiety has shown up in my life in the past year and a half, 2 years, since my mom passed away. And, it is really serious. It's really something that I wasn't expecting. I never thought that I would deal with it. But your little graphic with the monster, that's exactly how it feels. And, my monster comes normally between 3 and 5 a.m. most days. And, I have to do a lot of work to make him stop and not take over my life. So I would love for you to share, maybe with a mom that's listening today, and she may label it other things, chest pains or night sweats or those 3 a.m. worries. I had those for a really long time before it became full-fledged anxiety. But I would love for you to share, maybe with that mom today, some of the things that you recommend and some of the things that have helped you that you write about to really help stop it and keep it from harming your life.
I think the first step is to recognize that you have that in your life, present in your life. Because and I know it's very difficult because people don't usually, and especially moms, we have this notion that we have to get, like, to be these perfect creatures, that we have to have it all figured out, everything together all the time. And when you start having these sensations, and the thing is, like, anxiety can manifest in different ways in different people. So some people had, as you said, chest pains, or, like, for example, I had panic attacks. I used to have you know dizziness spells.
Mm.
I was having, like, there are a lot of symptoms, and not everybody has the same symptoms. So what I did first, obviously, was, like, try to educate myself as much as I could about the whole condition. And then I use this character, because actually writing fiction helped me to find this method. And I use this personalization technique. In the book, I take that monster, give him traits, give him qualities, so I could see the anxiety outside of me as a different character. Not,
Mm.
like, not something that can control me, but something that I would put out there, and that I was definitely not gonna be scared of that monster. It's gonna be a monster that I can master, and that I can make work in my favor. Sometimes you can realize that when you feel that anxiety and those fears, they can help you to turn the things around. It's just like you need to learn how to go from that point to the next one. And it's not always that's easy. It's not always, it might take time, it might take work on your part, but it's definitely possible. I know that especially last year was very difficult for a lot of moms and a
Mhm.
lot of people, and anxiety, even myself, after years of battling anxiety and having it kind of like under control, last year for me was really hard. uh,
Mhm.
I had COVID I think it was November or something like that, and it was harder for me mentally than physically, because I was like, this anxiety monster came, with all force, and I was trying to attack the monster was I was like trying to get healthy. So it's I have a lot of methods in my book, and I have also supplemental guides and things that I have on the side that people can start using right now.
Yes.
Um, and I have tips for moms, especially that's uh, the
Mhm.
audience I'm talking to. I have tips of, because it's hard to navigate anxiety. Well, you have to be a mother, and you're responsible for these little kids, or your family, or whatever, all the responsibilities that fall into mom's hands. It's difficult to juggle motherhood and having these sensations,
Yes.
like when you cannot sleep, for example, and then the next morning you have to wake up and still be a mom. So it's hard. I know it's hard, but I can tell you, I'm proof of that. You have a power inside that maybe anxiety is not letting you see, but you can discover that power in yourself and let it out, and turn that fears into something different. You
Mhm.
can put love instead of fear. I know it's difficult. I know, like, grieving is also um like a trigger for you, for example.
Right.
For some other people, it can be COVID. For some other people, it's other things, or money situations, or there
Right.
is a lot of things. And um I believe that everybody has the power inside to, control those situations. It's just like, you need to remove and try to get to know yourself better, and you remove all the other stuff and the noise
Mm.
until you find that works for you. Also, because what works for one person doesn't work for other person.
Yeah.
So you need to try things and try until you find your own set of weapons. I said it, like, in the book, I mentioned something like, I tend to compare things to fictional works. And I said, you have to assemble your own, Avengers team of things that you can use,
Yes.
uh, just to attack your own monster.
Yeah, and on that note, I think you mentioned self-help and personal development, personal growth, all of those terms that go together, and that is my specialty. Like I'm always reading nonfiction books, and recently have stepped out there and let people know that I am actually a personal development coach. It's not something that I've really talked a lot about because for many years, I've only been really coaching myself and developing those skills and, reading countless personal development self-help
Yeah.
books, and they really do help. But as you say, there are lots of weapons that people have, and some of those come and go at different seasons of our life, So just to take away the stigma of that stuff right now, I want to say, some of the things that I know about that I've written in on the Togetherness Redefined blog about, I have a post that's a togetherness tip called Chase the Blues Away. And I wrote it as we're recording this almost a year ago when my whole family actually got really, really, really sick, and it was March of 2020. And my husband had just flown to Florida to have a CT scan because he had been diagnosed with a small, not life threatening type of cancer. But, and we had been in all kinds of upheaval. We were living in a rental very temporarily, had just given up a big dream of ours and weren't really sure, what the next time looked like. Well, here we are, sick on the couch as a family of four for over 2 weeks, wondering, do we have COVID? Do we not have COVID?
Yeah.
And I mean, all of that stuff. And so the fact that I had anxiety and depression knock on my door is not shocking. But
Yeah.
there are strategies and different things I started researching, and I share on that blog, which I'll link to in these show notes. Um, but one of them is exercise, obviously. Another is eating healthy foods that really keep you fueled and make your brain less foggy. I love to get up early in the morning to journal, to write, to really like hop online and connect with another mom. That's one of my therapy methods. I like to get out in nature and just touch trees, like not in
Yeah,
a
that's
weird hippie
awesome.
way,
Yeah.
right? Just get out there and touch something real. And then, there are medications that people need to take sometimes. There's also natural supplements. And, there is, depending on what state you are, CBD can be really helpful for really helping you get over a hump with anxiety. I know some people who take it daily, to
Yeah.
keep that
Yeah.
anxiety and depression monster away. And I don't want to share anybody else's story, but those supplements and those medications, along with healthy food and exercise, like that's been what has helped me and my friends and family really take away the stigma, talk about it. There are some people in my life, we talk about it several times a week, just
Yeah.
checking in, saying, how's it going?
Yeah. That's very
Um,
important.
all of those things. So I want to remove that stigma right now for anyone who's listening and really invite you to get the help that you need. Reach out to someone. You and I will be resources for people I know. And as you mentioned, there are tools already on your site. They don't have to wait for the book.
Yeah.
But I'd love to know, maybe some tangible things that you did when, in November or in the past, when there has been a really sort of acute, sort of attack, I guess is the best word. What helps you get over the hump and get back to the vibrant, person that you really are?
I think, and I talk about that in my book. I think, and you mentioned something very important, is nurturing,
Mhm.
but you have to nurture your mind, your body, and your soul.
Yeah.
I think you need to take care of the three things, because if you don't, you're not going to find that balance. So when I get that anxious, I need to tackle those three things and try to, as you said, like being physical, like, do exercise, eat well, and also connect to my spirit, to my soul. I think that's very important for
Mhm.
me.
Yeah.
The spiritual part, I know it's a very controversial subject to talk, but um, I discovered that I have these three key things that I need to keep in balance so I can get this monster under control. So and I have tried a lot of things, meditation, journaling, medication, and I talk about all of that in the book. There were periods of time in my life that medication worked, others it didn't work,
Hmm.
others is a combination of things, but right now what I found is just you need to figure out what is the part of you that needs to be taken care, like
Mm.
it's difficult because for each person is different, but I believe if you do some digging, and exercises like journaling helps me a lot. And I developed a journaling method too, um, which takes some meditation and some other things that you can, and I have the own questions I can ask myself during the morning, during the night, and it helped me to figure out what is keeping me anxious, what is the problem, because sometimes you have a lot of thoughts and you just need to explore yourself and see what is that thing that bothers you that really needs to be taken care. So I believe journaling, meditation are key points in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Right now I am doing this running challenge in February, which is funny because I'm not doing this for any, weight, losing weight or anything. It's just that I found that running for me is actually kind of like a meditation practice. Like when I run, it's my time to be with myself and talk with my soul, actually have conversations with myself. And
Mm-hmm.
I need that time to have that, connection. So I am doing that in February, and I'm having the results every week in my blog. I write about it because every time I go for a run, I come and do a journaling exercise, and I have found out a lot of myself. Like, oh, so this is what's going on in my life right now. I need to take, to put more attention to this or to that. And it's just you finding your own ways and your own resources. But definitely there is help out there, and I try to help as much as I can. I have developed guides also, um, to understand the anxiety monster. What are the differences between, regular anxiety with like a anxiety that is really needed to be, because everybody is anxious
Mm-hmm.
at some point. Everybody suffers anxiety, or like in some level. So I have this guide where you can see the little monster and the big monster and the difference between them. I have that guide. Is like anxiety assessment I created. Also, I developed a 12 tips guide that I kind of changed a little bit when the coronavirus threat was coming into the picture. I was like, okay, I need to do something about this because people are getting, and it was so curious for me why I was writing and developing this book at the same time that this happened, and a lot of people were asking me questions, and I'm like, oh my god, it's kind of like the universe was telling me this is the moment for you to create these products and this book, and this is the way you can help others. And I was happy, that finally I could understand why I was going to this path of anxiety and finding ways so I could help
Mm-hmm.
others. So I'm happy doing that, and the best way I can do it is writing and talking about it. So
Yeah. Yeah. That is a really good point, that it really is the mind, body, and soul and spirit, all of those things. And sometimes we may need to focus more on one than the other,
exactly.
but it really is a package deal. I couldn't agree more. And I didn't mention yoga, meditation, reading the Bible, reading scriptures. And you're right. We tend to get a lot very controversial over even yoga, or even
Yeah, yeah.
meditation or scripture reading. But really, and I'm not trying to talk about that. I'm just trying to talk about, feeding your mind, body, soul, and spirit, and really spending time with yourself to see which one of those is out of alignment. And on the subject of journaling, just yesterday, as we're recording this, literally, I did have a early morning anxiety visitation or attack, whatever you want to call it. And in that moment, I realized, you know what? I've been writing a lot. I am a writer. I've been building, getting my book out there, building a business. And really, I want to communicate with moms who really want to focus on family togetherness and who have big dreams that they don't know how always to get, to go after. But in all of that writing, I realized that, I've gotten away from my journaling practice. And so yesterday morning, I literally could not do anything else, even though I had a million to-dos. I just brought out my journal with a regular old-fashioned pencil and just wrote, and I
Yes.
found myself like trying to control myself and cut it off, and say, okay, I've spent too much time on this. I have to get on, but I wouldn't let myself. And it's so healing, that journaling practice is really, really healing.
And you mentioned something very important, that moms, we tend to, have these tight schedules, and we need to do this and we need to do that and this and that. And if it's not done, we get crazy. But I realized, some days are just gonna be different, and you just need to accept that.
Yes.
Some days your house is gonna be messy. Some days you have to feed the kids something that you were not planning to, or things, life happens. So you need to adapt and learn on the moment, and see how you can, when you start feeling anxious, how you can turn that around and
Mhm.
turn it into your favor. But then you realize anxiety is kind of like, or fear can be like that red flag that the universe is sending you to say you need to change something, or you need to do something right now,
Right.
not in the future, right now, do something. So instead of being numb and paralyzed, with fear and anxiety, you take the monster and like, no, 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 you are not gonna control me right now. I'm gonna find a solution. Because
Right.
sometimes that's what happened with anxiety. It freezes you and you don't think of solutions. You just think of the problem, of the problem, of the problem, how I'm gonna, and you don't see the answer of the solutions, because you are just, just numb and in fear. And I know it's hard, because I've been in moments that, even I felt like I was gonna die. I had these panic attacks that I thought I was having a heart attack, and I end up calling the ambulance and everything, and
Mm.
I end up
Yeah.
in the ER, and they're like, no, you just have anxiety. And it happens. And I
Yeah.
understand that. And I want to tell moms that they are not alone. Sometimes you feel so embarrassed, and you fear the judgment,
Yes.
and you need to stop, nurturing that judgmental
Yes.
side, of motherhood,
Yes. Absolutely.
because we need to talk about the dark sides too. Because
Mhm.
yeah, motherhood is wonderful, and we know we cannot, like, we cannot love more our family, our kids. We love them. We
Mhm.
cannot be, you know happier about them, but it's hard thing to do. Motherhood is hard, but if people don't talk about it, and also you see things on social media, everybody's trying to, you know be happy and perfect, and it's okay. I'm not mad about it or anything. It's just like, if we share the good, we also should share the bad
Yeah.
and the difficult, because we are, humans, and we need to rely on each other.
Absolutely. And, that really reminds me of in the past couple of years, honestly, since my mom has passed, I have been a voracious reader of self help and self development, personal growth books. And as I'm talking to you, like I can even see this book that's right beside my computer.
Oh, I read that one. Yeah.
This Jensen Chero book.
Yes.
And, like behind me, I'm showing on video for people who aren't watching the video. Like there's stacks of books. It never stops. We can never stop learning. We can
Yeah.
never stop growing, because it's really that connection to development and really, growing and especially during the pandemic, as we're recording this, it's been more difficult. We need to recognize that, all of those social connections that we had in person, even if it was like a hug that you got from
Yeah.
someone once a month, you're missing that, even if you don't realize it, so that is why, even now more than ever before, I've become such a believer in personal growth books, resources, like the things you mentioned in your shop, which I'm going to link to in our show notes for this episode. And even grabbing a coach, even if it's for 1 hour a week, 1 hour a month. That is why I finally got over my own fear and actually put it up on my website to offer one-to-one coaching and personal growth programs. Because,
Yes. Yes.
when I
Definitely.
worked between November and Christmas, I started working with 9 women just as like a beta group for these programs. One of them is called Mamas Who Write, and the other one is 21 Mindset Shifts. And I was working with them, and I found myself really just coming alive. You know,
That's so awesome.
I love it. Like I love to invest in the lives of women, and because so many people have invested in my life. So I want to shift gears a little bit, and I want to talk about you as a writer. And obviously, that's been extremely healing for you, the fiction and the nonfiction. So before we have to go, because I could talk about so many things with you for hours and hours. We're probably going to have to get on another podcast at some point, but just the fact of like running and what a meditation practice that is. I'd love to dive into that next time, maybe. But before we shift gears, I want to talk about your website really quickly as a resource for people. So it's called Momxous. So Momxious, like an anxious mom, right? Mom and anxious together. And on the about page, I love the definition that you give for momshus. So you have like 5 different definitions here, like a mom warrior who wants to take care of her mental health efficiently, all while juggling parenting and life. A mother in a constant search of self growth paths, inspiration, and healing. A woman who happens to have children and indulges with great literature, pop culture, series, coffee, wine, and occasional treats. And a goddess, a hero, the home's CEO, CFO, project manager. It goes on and on and on. And then the 5th one is a person's mother who may get overwhelmed and experience certain level of anxiety. However, she's found the key to turn the anxiety monster into a master. So it's like all these levels I see. So before we transition into talking about you as a writer, I'd love for you to just share about your about page and your community that you're building for people who are dealing with anxiety.
So I started to develop this website at about a year ago when I was writing the book, and I partnered with an illustrator and another friend who's a designer, and the 3 of us, start creating these products and messages. And what I want with that is basically, shift the notion of like an anxious mom is a weak mom.
Mm,
No, you need to understand anxiety is something you have, but it doesn't define you. It doesn't, like, uh, people may say to you, oh, you're weak or it's all in your head. No, you are a warrior, you're powerful.
yeah.
So just to make people understand that, like, we have to make that shift of seeing mothers that suffer anxiety or any mental health issue as weak, because
Right.
that's like all the country. We are very powerful people that are trying to, juggle all of this. So that's the main reason we created that. And that site is specifically for the momxious part of, my anxiety writing and anxiety products. I have another website which is my blog, which is more like about everything, every little thing I do. I have, I write there about my fiction works, or whatever comes to mind. I write about uh, things all the time, like whatever random things.
Yeah.
So the Momshes community, I have a newsletter, I have a Facebook group also, to whoever wants to join. There is a link in the Momshes website. If
Great.
somebody wants to join the newsletter, I send free content every Tuesday and Fridays. I send a newsletter that is more like, it's called a pause for the moms who needs a break. It's more like, I recommend books or TV shows, or you know podcasts, or things that I hear, or listening to something, or things for fun. I just share something for the mom on during the weekend, just to relax, have a little pause, and
Yeah.
Take a deep breath.
Yes, I saw that today when I was looking through everything, and I signed up for your newsletter because I love that idea, and that's something that we do in the Togetherness Redefined community is, if you can even take 5 to 10 minutes a week to really plug into a resource. So for me, I write about family togetherness and helping moms, just a few minutes a week, plug into a resource and get what you need. And I've really needed that with anxiety, just a resource and encouragement. So I'm really excited to start receiving the pause, and I will link to it in our show notes. I didn't see your blog though. So before we, close out the podcast, I want you to tell us the link for your blog.
It's paolasur.com.
Okay, great. Yes, I will link to that. So that's PAOLASUR.com, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. All right. So now I do want you to share with me. So as we're recording this and when I publish this in the next couple of weeks, I am in the Mamas Who Write season. Like, this is for me, February, March, April. I'm living in Maine right now. And after my family's full-time travel, we actually transitioned to this past fall to live in Maine full-time. And so this has been our first winter in a non-sunny place, right? It's cold. It's been cold, and people in New England, we've spent a lot of summers in New England, and it has really been a home to us. So when it came time for us to take a little rest from our travels, we knew this is where we wanted to be. But we're not exempt from those New England, winter blues or whatever. So I really found that this is such a healing time, no matter where you live, to get into writing. Whether it's journaling, or if you want to publish your own book, if you want a big, huge book contract one day, like Paola and I do, that's what we're working towards. Or if you just want to get into a really good journaling practice, I have developed these 30 tools and resources and inspirations and stories for writers. And I deliver them in one email a day, so that people can, instead of waking up and opening up your social media, you can wake up and get your writing resource and your prompt and set aside those, just like 30 minutes for 30 days of journaling, or writing, whatever, if you want to blog about it, whatever. So now that I'm in this season, I find myself just so intrigued to know, what are your writing practices? Because us as moms and women, who work and do all these other things and still are responsible for dinner some nights of the week at least, and the dishwasher, right?
Yeah.
How do we really not just find time, but create the time and space for writing? What does your writing practice look like?
Well, right now I'm translating one of my fantasy novels. Actually, I already translated. I'm kind of doing an editing thing.
So would that be from Spanish to English? Is
yes.
that? Yes, I wanted to mention your accent is it's just beautiful. And I love,
Thank you.
I really love talking to you. It's amazing. So anyway, you're translating, not just did you write your fiction novels in Spanish, now you're translating them to English. Okay, go ahead.
Because I want to, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this book, if I want to self-publish it or if I want to find an agent. I'm still, in that crossroads. But I wanted to translate it and try to, so the book would keep my essence into it, instead of setting somebody to translate it, and maybe I can find somebody that edits later. But what I do is, I have to wake up early, because I have very little time. So I try to wake 5:30. So I start at 6. From 6 to 7 I do a little of that editing part. Then I take my kids to school, and then I have just 5 hours like a window of 5 hours to do all what I do, like in my writing, because aside from having books, like you need to promote them, you need to do this other stuff, you need to do the marketing, you need to do a lot of stuff. So um the blog, the podcast, now I am trying to record a podcast for people to get to know about my book and stuff like that. So I um and I have to do the running thing. So what I try is that 5 hours, that window of 5 hours, I don't cook, clean, do laundry, do dishes, nothing. Because if I do, then it's gone. Because you start doing dishes and then, oh, let me take this stuff out, and that, oh, let me cook, let me do. No, I those 5 hours have to be my hours, because I take this as a business. This is my business, this is my life, and this is what I want to create my income. Right now it's not, but in the future it will be. So if you're taking writing seriously, you need to take this as a business and as your, like, maybe don't be so rigid on the schedules, but definitely have a time you set apart for your business or your writing, and the other things that come to with, because it's not just writing. As I said, if you have books, if you are an author, or if you're willing to become an author, you
Mm-hmm.
need to wear a lot of hats. So there is the blogging, the podcasting, the editing, the this and that, and those require time.
For sure.
And that's what I try to do. And when I finish editing this book, I'm planning to write. This is like a trilogy, so I have in my head. I have planned that I will finish the editing sometime in February, and then on March, April, and May I will dedicate to write and write and write the sequels in Spanish, with hopes that I don't know where this is taking me. Sometimes when I write, I don't know what is gonna happen, and that's the beauty of it. Like you start writing something and you don't know where it's gonna go, and then it ends up being a book or something else, and you just need to let yourself, your creativity take you wherever it will take you.
Yes,
So
I agree. I agree. And, I have, in this podcast season, I've been talking to other writers, particularly moms who write. And, a common theme for all of us has been those early mornings, whether it's just 1 hour,
yeah,
or
it's
different
important.
seasons of your life are different. So if you have a newborn, probably early mornings may not be your time, or if you're a super night owl, you may not do early mornings, may not be your creativity. You may get up and do exercise or something else. But for me, I've been working at home far before a pandemic was even a thing. And I've been homeschooling for 12 years. So I have had to manage, work, homeschool, and a writing practice. And I haven't done well balancing all of those things. But as Paula mentioned, like when you have a calling, a desire to write books that help people, there is this whole other thing other than the writing, So you do have to guard your writing time. And for me, that is early morning. And right now, I don't have a new book that that I'm writing. I do always have magazine articles and blogs and togetherness tips. So that is just like that's the time when I get up and do that. And then I try to save some of that business stuff for like when my kids are doing some online learning. We don't do a whole lot of that, but because they don't respond well to that. We do a lot of experiential things, but it's like blowing up for me. It's like blowing out that schedule. Your day doesn't start at 8 a.m. and end at 5 p.m. When you have all of these things, our kids are not going to be at home forever. and they're not going to be coming home from school at a certain time forever. So if we blow out that schedule, that can be really helpful. And I love what you said about guarding that time. I think that's so, so important. So the other element though is courage. And I just would love to know, how did you find the courage to start sharing your writing?
Oh, it was a hard thing for me to do because I had a lot of self doubt at the beginning. Um, because people have an idea of what a writer, they tell you, oh, that's your hobby, or that's your, something you're doing on the, just to occupy your mind. And when you say like, no, that's not my hobby. I actually write books, and this is my life. This is what I do.
Yeah.
um at the beginning I was like, hesitant to share that, but then I was like, you know what, I this is my calling. I cannot just deny what I want to do because of fear of what other people think.
Right.
And actually this upcoming book is very, very personal. I share a lot of personal things that, I never spoke before. And it made me nervous. Yes, it makes me nervous still. Like it's not out yet, and I'm like, oh my god, people's gonna know a lot of stuff. But at the same time, it's an honest work. You have to share what you feel, and
Right.
if it's your calling, there's nothing you can do. You just need to do it.
Yes, I agree. I agree. Well, Paola, thank you so much. This has been a really amazing conversation. And, it's really chock full of resources for people, for everything from, a mom dealing with anxiety, dealing with some different mental health issues in herself or her family, to all the way to like expressing creativity and all of the things that can really help us grow personally. So I really can't thank you enough for your time. I know this is really going to help a lot of ladies out there. So before we close out, I would love for you to share with people how they can connect with you online, how they can join your community, and really how they can pre-order that book or get on a list, to know when it's ready for them.
So if you want to connect with me, I think the easiest way is through my social media, and my handle is at Paobsur, Paobsur. So it's easy. You can find me in Instagram. Now I'm TikToking with the help of my 10-year-old. But TikTok or Twitter is the same handle, Paobsur. And then in Facebook, I have the Momkshes page, which is at Momkshes. Um, if you go to my websites, the paolasur.com or momkshes.com, you're gonna find all the information there. Um,
Great.
if you, and also in Amazon, you can pre-order the book right now. The book is gonna be out on April 20th. So it's gonna come out soon, so get your copy.
Yes, yes, I'm so excited about those things. And I'm going to link to everything you talked about over at togethernessredefined.com on our podcast page so people can, have one place they can visit all the links and get a pre-order of that book. I'm so excited. I'm going to get my copy too. I saw the pre-order today, so I'm on the list.
Thank you so much, and I really appreciate you gave me this opportunity to speak to other people about it, to other moms. And I just want to tell them that whatever their story is important, and if they feel like they need to write about it, just do it.
Yes.
Don't fear, because you might be um you know you might be scared right now of writing about it, but somebody else can get so much from your story that you need to do it.
Yes. Yes, I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much, Paola. Thank you so much for joining and listening to the podcast today. I hope you gathered so much hope and strength and courage from this really important conversation. I hope you listen to it again and again whenever you are dealing with or struggling against anxiety or any mental health issue in your family. And I hope it gives you the courage to really speak out against that stigma and also get honest with yourself and the people in your life so that you can get the help you need and move forward into a way that really helps not just yourself, but your family and ultimately all of us. We all gather strength from each other, and I really hope that that's what this podcast did for you and that it encourages you to share your story too. I've got loads of resources for you and loads of links to the things that we talked about, especially Paola's book and all of the resources that she has there for you. To get those, go to togethernessredefined.com and click on podcast, and there you will see a cover that's talking about a conversation about motherhood and mental health with Paola Sur. Click there and then you can see all the links that I have there for you. And while you're there, I would love for you to join our email group because I love speaking with parents and grandparents. In that email group, we share resources, we share a togetherness tip every Friday, and we talk about issues just like these that affect togetherness with our families all the time. I'll see you there, and I'll see you right back here next time.